Mads-palsvig, Syria is one of the most confusing global conflicts that we've seen in probably the last 20 years. And I can speak from the American perspective that I think that the people overall are generally uninformed and or just struggling to understand who's on what side of things and what's really going on over there. Could you kind of explain just in layman terms who the players are and what's going on and what we're being told and what we're not being told?
Yeah, well, there is the official story, obviously, that there are some rebels against Assad, and Assad is horrible and so on. But then you look into some more of the details, and it turns out that the majority of the population in Syria actually supports Assad, and that these so-called moderate rebels actually are ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and that they are not very nice, and they are committing a lot of atrocities wherever they are. And you have to remember that before this war started, Syria had no foreign debt. It had its own independent central bank. It had about 16 different religions living together peacefully with each other. So a very secular state and very well-educated people overall. And then this war started, and allegedly it started because Assad wouldn't allow Qatar to send a gas pipeline through this country to Europe from Qatar all the way through to Europe. And it's for sure Qatar and Saudi Arabia are funding ISIS. That's pretty much mainstream. And it's also pretty mainstream that America is funding Saudi Arabia and Qatar with weapons, and that ISIS are fighting with these weapons. And Trump is also out saying this, that Hillary, her State Department, has been equipping these moderate rebels, and that the weapons end up with ISIS. So Trump has been pretty honest about that. And also then we had the oil from Iraq and Syria that was shipped in thousands and thousands of lorries from Iraq and Syria into Turkey, where Erdogan's son was in charge of looting this oil, and they were probably sharing the spoils somehow. But that's pretty amazing. And then so until Russia came into the war, the American bombers could not find these oil trucks and stop this. It's pretty amazing. You can send in drones and hit a target, of the size of a needle, but you can't find thousands of oil trucks, which is pretty strange. So I think it's pretty obvious now that if Trump is not willing to support in any way, shape, or form the moderate rebels, they have lost. And there will be peace in Syria, and Assad will stay in power. I think I'm pretty certain about that.
So, can you explain what the Obama administration's strategies have been, what they say that they're doing, and what, what's been going on, and how that pertains to Russia?
Well, I think that war is big business. If you own the military-industrial complex and you can sell weapons to the taxpayer for immense profits, and then you can go over and conquer a country and steal 143 tons of gold from Libya, for example, and then also the numbers I've heard from Iraq alone was $2,000 billion of oil. So all your costs are funded by the taxpayer. And then the spoils they're there for the taking. It's just pretty much business. I mean, it's not like something new. It's the same recipe that's been going on for hundreds of years.
Can you explain Russia's involvement in this?
Well, again, I look at the political leaders, I listen to what they say, and I see what they do. And I think Putin, so far, I think he's a very, very good guy, and I honestly think he wants peaceful relations with everybody else. I mean, come on. I mean, he has the second most effective army in the world. He could take the Baltics in 5 minutes? The Nazi fascist soldiers and government in Ukraine that was installed by Victoria Nuland and John Kerry and McCain and all these guys. Russia, if they wanted to, they could just take over Ukraine. It wouldn't take long, right? I mean, their army is so much stronger than these. I mean, it's very fragmented in Ukraine. You have a lot of oligarchs that have their own private army, and then you have the Ukrainian official army that is not really they don't even want to fight. And when they are captured in the Russian-speaking area of Ukraine, they ask them for their mobile number, their mother's or grandmother's mobile number, and then their mother or grandmother has to come over and pick them up. That's what the Russian-speaking part of they do with the soldiers that are captured. So it's very reluctant. Even the Ukrainians are very reluctant in attacking the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine. And I think that there was a peace deal in Minsk a few years back, and I'm sure now with Trump that there will be a peace deal. Most likely Ukraine will be split up in a Russian-speaking and a Ukrainian-speaking part, and I think that is only good. It's only fair. People can be together with whom they feel the most biggest connection with. But still, Ukraine has been looted, totally looted, absolutely.
So, and it's really important to understand the Ukrainian situation, to understand, especially the propaganda against Russia from, the NATO countries. And, basically Russia has been saying that they support Assad, that the people don't want to get rid of him, and that the small number of people that are against him are being stirred up by whatever forces. I mean, and then we have ISIS coming in and invading. What side of things is the United States on when they seem to be so adamant against Russia and Assad?
Well, it's just history repeating itself. I mean, how did United States get into the World War I? It was J.P. Morgan buying up 25 largest newspapers and putting in a corrupt editor who wrote lies about the Germans. And then it took them 2 years after Lusitania to eventually, get the Americans into World War I. And we're seeing the same thing here. The people who are making all this money out of the military-industrial complex and funding the war, and also looting these countries, these people also own the media. So clearly, they're not telling the truth. You have to go to alternative media like yourself to find out what really is going on. Yeah?
Or at least our perspective on it.
Yeah, well,
I'm really excited to see what happens going forward now as we change from the Obama administration to the Trump administration. What is going to happen in Syria, and are we going to have peace there? Because this has all got to be taken care of, and are we going to act in accordance with, getting rid of ISIS, or are we going to continue to talk outside both sides of our mouths? As many people on the ground in Syria have been reporting, people that are on the ground there with nonprofits that are saying that there are American forces on the ground there, and some of them are even helping ISIS, and are actually fighting against the Syrian government. And so, if that's really happening, I hope it is put to an end with this new regime here in the United States.
Yeah, I agree, and I know it was just revealed last month that the Pentagon had spent $540 million to an advertising company for making all these head-chopping terrorist videos, fake videos. $540 million of fake videos, which are being used to manipulate the population in believing in a fake story about the war. And some of it was taped with I believe, a real player, alleged or something, in a way where the CIA could then find out who was watching these these videos, and maybe they could use that for finding out who's maybe prone to become a terrorist or whatever.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of reasons why they did it, but nevertheless, I mean, they were also used in mainstream media, these fake videos, and they were portrayed as being real. Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. And it's crazy how it didn't. I mean, why aren't there members of Congress that are putting committees together to put this on trial, figure out what's going on? I mean, it's like, it's crazy how that blips up on the the media headlines, and yet that's it. I don't hear anything else going on about it. Is there any follow up to that? Why isn't this even a bigger story? Because again, it goes back to a rabbit hole that will lead you to what's happened with 9/11, what's happened with the Iraqi war and Afghanistan, and I don't know. I suppose I know that the conspiracy world already kind of knows this and what's going on, but as the greater public is made aware of how deep the rabbit hole goes, it will be interesting to see how people's reactions will be and how angry they will be as this really comes into general knowledge of what's happened, and we shall see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mads.
My pleasure.